So we are trying to understand, we will try to understand it. This understanding its meaning is more important than this paper. This because once you understand ethics, you will be able to apply yourself. If you do not understand, so there is challenge. This so we told you there are different ways to define also, you know this. And there one more definition we have written, that is also like, so you can see that you can also define yourself, but there should be some standards in those. Let's say ethics deals with standards of based on universal values. Because when we will set these established standards are nothing but universal values. Whenever we have established, कोई भी standard अगर establish होता है, that established standard is going to be universal value. This because they are set on the basis of moral reasoning. This when we set those value, let's say, when we set established standard, established standards, they will be set on the basis of moral reasoning. Or critical thinking. So moral reasoning and critical thinking, what you apply, whether you do it in India, or you do in US, or you do in whatever the country you let's say decide, the moral reasoning may not change much. Right. But what reasoning and logic we give here, similar reasoning and logics can be given elsewhere. That's why courts across the world you will find, they may refer each other. Even if their laws are different, but courts try to refer each other, you know that, best judgments and etc.
Doesn't ecology play a role?
Right. The ecology does not play much role in this. Ecology means कि culture is specific when may not play role in that. Right. Let's say here we'll say about culture, social norms, this societal values. So they do play, no doubt, right? But still, let's say that कि whatever right in one society, as per established standard, will be also right in another society. Right? Let's say कि you have human rights. The human rights are universal. Right? The human rights are them very broad, very inclusive type. The human rights, we say universal declaration of human rights. It's universal. So whatever the rights we may have as a human here, people elsewhere also as a human they have rights. That becomes one established standard. It is one established standard. Right. That's why gender equality. The gender equality you talk everywhere. Dignity of human, you talk everywhere. Peace, you will talk everywhere. Selflessness, you will talk everywhere. The selflessness can be a value in any society. Be it our society or any society. Selflessness will always be kept. Dutifulness, it will be kept at higher pedestal, you can say this. So when we say established standard, largely they will be, let's say, though not go in absolute aspect, but largely we can say that they will be universal. Right? That's why that way also we can define when we say this, that ethics deals with standards of conduct based on universal values. Right? That is a bit summary of, we can consider like this. And then moral philosophy we were talking. What we were talking basically? Normative ethics. What was the last thing that we were talking? Just we frame that. Thereafter we did not tell anything. Yes, it is. Hobbes, Locke, feminist. Let's. So this is just a bit repetition, recap what we told yesterday, right? It is just like recap, right? We'll continue from there where we left. Like this. So these universal standards, this is how we were saying. Yes. Yes, yes, okay.
Social values and cultural norms of India and Afghanistan are, are not same.
Yes.
So how can it be universal?
How?
It can be universal.
How it can be?
Universal then.
No, no. No. We told that social, cultural norms, our individual understanding will differ society to society. And they have their own relevance in determining anything as right and wrong. But they may not yet be ethical standards. Right? They can become ethical standards only when we are able to, by our logic and reasoning, let's say, ki set them as universal standards. Getting? So, they may be acceptable across the societies. Right? Otherwise, they will be considered more as moral but not ethical. That is how we will teach thereafter, means when we will take difference between morality and ethics. This you should know. The next level. So, their cultural values, our cultural values are different, but usko ethical standards we do not tell. We will tell them as moral standard. We will tell them as social norms, right? Societal norms, religious values, cultural values. These things we can tell. But to tell them as ethical standards, it should become universal. Or it should be on the basis of reasoning and logic. You can justify, yes, this is an established value. Getting?
Moral भी तो नहीं है उनकी society की value.
Right. देखो moral again कि we will come back, मतलब we will go in a, let's say कि things this moral differs society to society. ये आप कह रहे हैं कि वो moral नहीं है, लेकिन वो कह रहे हैं कि moral है. Right. Moral में तो यही होता है. Right. This, so I was saying basically these things. I referred, he was saying the ecology, he was referring a term, then I told not to use that. We can use these things. In that context I wrote. Right, in this paper we tell this thing. Right, but they are relative. But it is universal. तो इसके पीछे लॉजिक लगाया होगा तभी तो सेट किया होगा ना. Human rights did not come in one day. You have applied certain logics कि what are human rights? Right. You define human rights. The United Nations has gone into defining human rights, setting it some principles, and those principles are universal. This, that way. But societal norms may not be. Right? What we are saying, establish standards based on moral reasoning, and they will be, let's say that ki similar across different societies and countries. Yes. Different societies and countries. Why? We are trying to understand. It will take at least, let's say that ki by the time we deal normative theories, then you will be understanding. Let's say तो moral में यही होता है. इसीलिए तो society में friction है. Society has friction because of this. कि one says that कि one is right, other is saying कि no, they are right. Right. Then they have friction, and friction may result into many other things. That is what we have to understand. So someone, let's say, wrote yesterday more knowledge, but knowledge will soften you. Knowledge will make you receptive, accommodative, tolerant. So then there will be less friction. But we'll talk that way later on. Right? Is it clear? Right. Although we will try to relate ethics, morality, ethics and values, ethics and law, ethics and social norm, ethics and religion. Right? When we relate all these things, then you will have further understanding about ethics aspect. Right? We are in process, and a bit patience is needed to understand these things. Right? So that way we can say. So we were talking, just a recap gave, then we were talking that these universal values, reasoning, etc. have been done by moral philosophies. Right? We have moral philosophies. So we have moral philosophies. And moral philosophies are basically, we say them as normative, you can say normative theories of ethics, right? And they have given their reasoning, they have given their logic for this. You can say that ki moral values or principles of ethics. Establish a standard. Yes. So they can be considered ethical. Right. So what those principles they have established? If ethical, those standards, this Yes.
जब भी वो established value मानी जाएगी।
Yes.
सर ये कैसे है कि भाई इन्हीं से relate हो?
Yes. That is how we are studying. That is how you are studying. Right. That there is a whole logic behind each thing. Of that, some we will study. Right. A fraction of that we will try to study. It will teach you, it will take one class for virtue ethics, one class for Kant, one class for Bentham, social contract. Generally, it takes almost 3 to 4 classes to teach them. Right. This, then you will understand. Everything has a logic behind. That's why they are philosopher. Anyone cannot be a philosopher. वैसे हमारे यहाँ बहुत हर आदमी philosopher है. But you should know कि anyone cannot be a philosopher. Let's say that. This in true sense. अगर आप academic sense में बात करोगे, you have so many thinkers, academicians, this and that. But philosophies, there are few who have given. You can say that कि cardinal you can consider, significant level that all across the world they are followed. इससे भी आप समझ लो society culture से मतलब नहीं है. They are followed and all across the world you can see this. That way we can say. It is not necessarily कि only these things, there are other principles also. Right. Basically, if we talk universal principles, this let's say, universal principle, if you write this so they can be considered some universal principles, let's say basically, which all across the society we follow, right? So largely, let's say that you will have this. If our conduct conforming to these standards, so we can say that they are ethical. They are well established things, and there are a whole lot of things, philosophy behind them. This we can say, right? Right. Let's try this. It means ethics has its own set of principles based on logics, reasoning, and critical thinking given by philosophers. Change paragraph. Even if principles of ethics are derived from society, still any such principle derived from society, still any such principle any such principle cannot be considered ethical, cannot be considered ethical if it is not universal in nature, it is not universal in nature, and it cannot be justified on the basis of logic and reasoning, on the basis of logic and reasoning, logic and reasoning. Change the paragraph. Those principles or values, those principles or values may be right in a particular societal context, based on societal norms, religious values,
Can you please repeat it?
based on societal norms, religious values, or individual beliefs, right? So what we are saying is कि, for instance, let's write example. For instance, in Indian society, there can be social norms like respecting elders, right? Next, giving gifts, dowry practices, right? Child labor, child marriage, but they may not be considered principles of ethics. Right. This getting. Basically what we are trying is, just we have told some social norm. If you take that कि child labor may not be taken, although it is unlawful, but child labor is not still, society does not consider like this. You know that. Even child marriage in Rajasthan, the area, a particular area, you know that they support child marriage. This. Yes, नहीं है मतलब, but let's say that कि they support, there is a supportive aspect. So there was a culture that कि they support it like this. So that can be considered. Like say that कि gift taking, gift giving, let's say reception, these things, let's say in our society, so these things are quite valued in society. Right? These are social norms you can consider. But whether they will be ethically standard, it is subject to scrutiny. Right? It is subject to scrutiny, let's say. We have to scrutinize it. And then we'll have to justify it. Yes. So they can be considered in a particular society. Let's say even we'll find that caste related things. Right? There can be some people who may support, let's say there should be caste structure. Even Mahatma Gandhi supported caste structure. Yes. When Mahatma Gandhi, let's say, he supports that we should maintain caste structure. It can be his personal view, let's say that. It can be considered his personal view. Right. It may not be still considered, right. Can we consider it an ethical standard? He can have his moral, let's say, moral means it is his view you can consider, right. But it cannot be considered as ethical, right. Why it cannot be considered ethical, etc., we will learn it. This you can say. Since logic से try to understand, आप कैसे समझोगे? Anything that is right and wrong in society, तो उसका कोई basis है, right or wrong. So right and wrong is on the basis of religion, social norm. This individual belief. But ये right and wrong, right? It can be considered right, means in a particular situation, let's say, it can be considered okay, I will write okay in a particular society. This, but let's say ethical. So to say ethical, it is not basis of anyone. It is based on its reasoning. Let's say there should be reasoning. There should be rationality. There should be अब ये किसी की स्पेसिफिक नहीं है. This rationality, reasoning, certainly person will have ability to reason and logic, but it is not individual specific. Na? There, yes. So reasoning, logic and criticality, let's say that, critical thinking. But religion, अब religion में जो भी belief होगा, तो अगर वो गलत है तो गलत है. Right. And it is applicable to a certain faith, let's say that, a particular faith. Faith का original चीज क्या है? It many a time you do not know. Right. The people may have developed religious values because of interpretation. This, and let's say that this is how one religion people do not know about other religion. So one religion people do not know about other religion, so they may consider other religion as wrong, not good. This. And social norm, the society is different. Different society has different social norms. So when different social norms, let's say living standard, eating standard, talking standard, all these things are different. The society is specific. This person is specific, but it is neutral. Its base is neutral. This is because you don't have to logic only yourself. You have to logic before other people also. Right. This you should know that. Ethical standards are subject to scrutiny. I told you that a judge, when it is passing a judgment, they are hearing the both sides. And there is quite open interaction. This. And several layers of interaction, several layers of facts. And then judges would come to take a decision. Right. But that level of scrutiny has not happened to other affairs of the society. Even जब law बनता है, government when making law, तो law बनाते समय भी when law is in the formative stage, there is no such kind of scrutiny. Law comes to its open scrutiny once it is let's say, right, passed, let's say Waqf bill, you know that, right. And what court recent judgment, isn't it? Yeah, today let's say it has come in newspaper. So now it is subject to public glare. Right. पहले क्या था, गवर्नमेंट का अपना विजडम है, जैसे ही लॉ एक बार पब्लिक में आ गया तो ह्यूज नंबर ऑफ पीपल वी आर पब्लिक लेयर, अलग अलग लोगों का अलग अलग व्यू होता है, व्यूज काउंटर व्यूज, व्यू काउंटर व्यूज, द गवर्नमेंट वुड हैव टू जस्टिफाई इट. दिस इज रीजनिंग एंड लॉजिक. और जब आप लॉजिक दे रहे हो तो एक आदमी रिलीजन के बेसिस पे सोच सकता है, दो आदमी रिलीजन के बेसिस पे सोच सकता है, सारे लोग रिलीजन के बेसिस पे नहीं सोचेंगे. राइट. कोई रेशनल भी होगा, उसको रिलीजन से कोई मतलब नहीं है, उसको ये मतलब है कि वेदर लॉ इज गुड और नॉट, isn't it? So that way you can consider. So when judges are logicking, when advocate is logicking, so they are not being, let's say, this. They may project it, no doubt. They are also right. We are not rejecting it. Try to understand. They are right in their own sense. They are not, let's say, we are rejecting. But anything to consider as ethical, you have to conform to some universal standards. Means to consider anything as ethical, will have to have some standards. ऐसे समझो आप. But to consider anything as moral, right, wrong, as per your standard, so it depends ki what standard you have. This, that way. And since our standards have not been subject to that level of scrutiny, right, so our standards may have flaws, may have, but their standards have been subject to scrutiny. They have given philosophy by giving entire life in them. Right? You should know they have given entire life in them. So that is how they may have applied their own moral logic and reasoning. That way we have to understand. Although they will have flaws, no doubt. Nothing is perfect, it is philosophy.
Sir, I have one question, like reasoning has been evolved over time or it has been constant?
No, reasoning evolves over time based on lots of development in society. This. The reasoning also keeps changing, rationality also keeps changing.
Then the universal values will
Yes, they will also keep changing.
then sir, how we can come to conclusion that there is a particular universal value?
No. Then let's say ki try to understand. Everything is in a state of flux. Na? It is changing, transitional. Right? Everything is transitional. But that does not mean ki we should become so ambiguous to tell ki since everything is transitional, so then nothing is specific. Right? Then it will result into ambiguity. Right. Then it can become basis to non-adherence to values and standards. Right. This you should know.
Majority principle हम कह सकते हैं apply हो सकता है.
नहीं नहीं, मेजॉरिटी प्रिंसिपल नहीं अप्लाई होगा. ये सब थोड़े से बहुत ही व्हाट वी कैन से दैट कि नॉट एप्रोप्रिएट वर्ड्स लेट्स से कि टेल, बिकॉज इफ यू से मेजॉरिटी प्रिंसिपल, so majority people may be wrong also. That what is happening in Bangladesh or Nepal. Right? Majority, it is not majority rule. Many a time values are supported even if one person is right. Right? तो values के लिए, right के लिए support की जरूरत नहीं है कि how many people support it. Rather, is it right or not? महात्मा गांधी वाज इनिशियली रहे, अभी भी उनको क्रिटिसाइज किया जाता है. Right? कि ट्रूथ एंड नॉन वायलेंस. Still he has criticisms, but he himself evolved his philosophy, and he may have lots of critics when he was alive also. Getting that way. So there are, let's say कि yes, whatever you are saying it is, but that does not mean कि we can say कि there is lack of clarity in this. Right? Because society is changing. Simple, we can tell that कि in past it was considered that कि technology is neutral, and let's say that कि it depends on those who use technology. their values. That was the hypothesis. Now we do not say this. Technology is not neutral. The nature of even technology depends on its creators. Because even technology is also created by people. So their values will decide the nature of technology. This is now change logic. Right. The logics keep changing, reasoning keeps changing, you can say that way you can consider. But this we don't have to. So this is what one aspect of. I guess it is clear about ethical. As far as meaning is concerned of ethics, it is clear. What is ethics? How we decide ethics on reasoning and logic? That aspect. Then we go to the next level. Next level is relationship, let's say. So basically let me tell that how we'll teach, how the things will progress in class. So basically when we'll teach, let's say, we will teach about ethics and its relations. Relations which we are going to teach with morality, this, that, etc., which I will write it. Then we'll teach about normative. Normative theories that we have written, the base of your ethics. And after normative theories, we'll teach you other moral philosophers. Other moral philosophers and leaders. The topic that given, moral philosophers and leaders, so that will teach this. And then we'll take other, this is out, here we'll teach this. Then after this, then we'll take, this is called human values. The topic that you have mentioned, human values, etc. And ethics in public and private relation, that is first chapter you can consider. Thereafter it is chapter wise will go, although we try to bring the common topics together. That way we can consider, right? So we'll understand ethics now, so let's write the ethics and its relation with this ethics and morality. Ethics and values. Ethics and societal norm. Ethics and religious values. Ethics and law. Yes. Now, as far as questions are concerned, they have asked 2 to 3 times. This relationship, then they have asked once. This will give you more clarity. It is more for clarity. This morality, ethics, what exactly they have the relationship like this, that way. Ethics and morality. So by this you can understand that ki things take a bit time to talk. Right? There are different. So gradually you will understand. Let's take morality, we'll define, then we'll talk the possible relation. Then the end note it is, ki can there be ethicality without morality? This. So, individual beliefs and values. Individual. So it also deals with rightness and wrongness. This you should know that. Moral. So when we say that ki term moral, let's say this morality term has also been derived. Morality is also a Greek word. That is mors, or morage, you can say this, and this means, it means character and conduct. This. So literally, ethics and morality both will have same meaning, character and conduct. But morality per se, when you talk, morality as a term when we define, the morality means rightness and wrongness of a human conduct based on individuals' belief, values and standards. Like your belief and standards. आपका अपना standard क्या है? This. So let's take this individual standards. अब जैसे कोई भी individual है, individuals, let's say, so we are all individuals, right? And then all we are individuals, so we have our own values, we have developed our own values or standards, which we are free to have our own values and standards, right? These values and standards can be as per your own self understanding. You can have self understanding. That is called conscience, your own conscience based. Right. आपके conscience ने क्या allow किया है, क्या allow करता है, this you can say. Your own knowledge base, you can say that. You may have derived from your own family values, may derive from societal values, the society we live. This, so that way we can consider your own experience also, let's say, this. So we may have our own standards, etc. we can consider this. So those individual standards we can consider. The individual standard, they think, and it can be their standard, right? So that individual standards, if let's say whatever you decide right and wrong, let's say that ki some people, let's say example क्या है? This. So let's one example is that there can be some people, and some people want that, some people think that there should be tit for tat, No, they should be tit for tat, let's say that. They think that there should be slap for slap, this abuse for abuse. This you can say. Because if you do not give abuse for abuse return, the people can think a sign, take a sign of weakness. That you can consider. But some other people may feel that, there should not be tit for tat. Right. Other people think if you speak something against them, they will not even respond, they can simply leave, they may ignore. Right. So some people may ignore. They think ignorance is better. Right. For them. So different individuals can have different types of belief system, value system, let's say that. You can consider. Some people may like open society, some people may like this. That you can consider. Some people may like that women should work, some people may think that no, women should not work. Getting? Right. So women should work. Right. Some people would give freedom to women, some people would not give freedom to women. This. They think that कि ज़्यादा freedom देना ठीक नहीं है. No. Right. So if you will find in society moral standard, आप थोड़ा और open हो, even it is second class, but let's say that कि I should be free to tell all these things. Right. And don't take it personally, because this is how we teach, let's say that, and it demands critical thinking. Right. The critical thinking, etc. So don't think a particular example is why it is picked up. This is a natural way to tell whatever comes, we think, so we tell it, right. But let's say कि moral standard, तो अलग अलग लोगों का moral standard है. जैसे कि will tell you that कि it happens कि let's say one woman, it is a Delhi story, one woman. So she used to work, you know that, and that she used to work late night. Times of India once published it, right? So she used to work late night, so she used to come late night. Late night it can be 1 a.m., it can be 2 a.m., like this, right? So when any women coming at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., how society will see her? Right. Let's take society, forget about this. How society will see her?
Give it a negative connotation. Will give it a negative.
Negative connotation. So society may not take it in a positive way. That's right. But let's take what happens to her. Right. Let's say that the person who is, let's say the gatekeeper, let's say this, the security guard wala. Right. The person who is security guard wala, he had a very different view about her. And when she, let's say, he came, so he did not readily open the gate. He had some right, gesture, posture like that, right. This, let's say that he is showing something that this lady is not right. His behavior indicated this message to her that he is thinking that I am coming from somewhere else rather than from this and that. Getting? One day she confronted him. Yes. She confronted. That is how. So basically Times of India is writing that the security guard wala considers that lady as immoral lady. It is immoral lady. That is how. So coming late, that is how this person moral standard. It is that person moral standard. Bit based on उससे आप बात करोगे तो अपने बारे में वो बताएगा कि what is his understanding. Right. This now similar, let's say that in Maharashtra it happens in one town, etc. 2-3 times it has happened. Not in some cities, let's say it has happened. Let's say a person wearing knicker, you can say that wearing a knicker enters in bank, right? Shorts we wear, let's say that. A person who is wearing shorts, let's say knicker, जो भी आप बोलते हैं, तो he enters in bank. Security guard वाला does not allow. Security guard वाला. The security guard wala does not allow that person to enter in bank. Right? Because he considers that as inappropriate. Right? हालांकि ऐसा कोई प्रोटोकॉल नहीं है. Right? There is no any protocol. Then on social media, lots of debate happen. Right? So this is what you can say, that it is his moral standard. This way you can understand. So our moral standards, your moral standard, we have lots of right and wrong in our mind. This. And on the basis of our moral standard, we consider other people as right and wrong. This. That way we can consider. So this way we can say. Similarly, there can be, if you go to take some sensitive issues in our society, sensitive issues, let's say, some social issues, sensitive issues, if you find on that aspect, as we mentioned yesterday, let's say if you take live-in, how society will see? Society, how society will see? Society will see them as immoral, negative, but the two individuals, suppose they are A and B, this, it is their moral standard, right? It is their moral standard. This you can consider. So that way we can consider. So this, let's say कि people, so you live your life as per your choice. Most of the people are living life as per their choice. Most of the people, let's say, we are part of the society. This, that is how, let's say, that we can have our own moral standard. All people will not have this moral standard in Indian society. This, that will find this. Even in marriage also you will find this. In marriage, what is the social norm? Right. Marriage में social norm ये होता है कि the girl side should be welcoming. Right. Boy side means groom side, and there should not be any iota of mistake or any, let's say, कि laxity in the arrangements. Right. Right. This. That is our social norm. This you can consider. And then the, let's say, the relationship, you will find that this way we can consider our moral values have been shaped by our society that we live. Can we say? Our moral values are shaped by the society that we live. This you can consider. So any individual, even individual has belief that individual is not having only personal aspect, it will be influenced by this. No doubt our self-understanding is also important. This.
Sir, I have one silly doubt. So what is value here? The exact definition of value.
Yes, that will deal later on, one by one. Right. We cannot teach all this, let me tell, value. Value means a standard. Conduct. Right? That is the general meaning of value. Standard of conduct, or a standard that guides our conduct. This. This. अब इसके अपने डायमेंशंस है. Yes, we'll teach after morality part. Right. This. So this way, since we have, let's write that further. Right. Since individuals are born in a particular environment, individuals are born in a particular environment, and they undergo through their own level of socialization, their own level of socialization. They develop their own moral standards. Moral standards. Let's now. Difference between morality and ethics. Difference between morality and ethics. right? So basically when we talk, let's say, okay, already we have told it depends on your personal values, it depends on universal values, right? Then it is relative. Relative means ki my moral values can be different, your moral values can be different. But it is not relative. It is universal. Even Einstein went on saying that relativity is applied in physics, not in ethics. Basically, theory of relativity. This in that context, let's say, there is relativity even in physics, but not in ethics. He is meaning by this absoluteness. This, we told you dharma is universal duty. This, that we can say. Dharma is universal duty. That is how ethicality. This, it is a just word, a qualitative word. जैसे peace एक word हो सकता है, compassion एक word हो सकता है, तो morality is also a word. But ethics जब word आता है, तो वो सिर्फ एक word नहीं है. Right? Ethics is also a branch of normative theories, let's say that, or moral philosophy, let's say that. The ethics studies morality. Right? Ethics can study morality in different society, and on the basis of studying morality in different society, it can tell you that in which society which moral values are followed. And at the same time, it can also go on setting some universal principles. Right? That can be. That is how the thing we can consider, right? So that line also will write, let's write. Ethics goes, right? Ethics goes on studying. Ethics goes on studying morality in different society. Morality in different society. And on the basis of commonalities, it can establish universal standards. On the basis of commonalities, it can establish universal standards. Universal standards, right? Like Nolan Committee. Nolan Committee established 7 principles of ethics. For civil servant. Nolan Committee established 7 principles of ethics. 7 principles of ethics for civil servants, which are universally acceptable, which are universally followed, which are universally followed. This, so that can be considered. But then let's say that does it mean that they are different? Right. So what exactly the relation they have? This. So we can have 3 different types of relations. This you can say. So let's write that. Even if they are different, still there are 3 types of relationship. There are 3 types of relationship between morality and ethics. Between morality and ethics. 3 types of relationship between morality and ethics. This. The first, it's ethical but not moral. Can we give example? Ethical but not moral. Anything that can be considered ethical, but it may not be considered moral.
लाइक सर कोई बंदा बहुत ज़्यादा तड़प रहा है और वो मेरे पास आता है बोल रही है मेरे को मार दो, तो सर वो अगर मैं उसको मार देता हूँ तो वो सर एथिकल नहीं है, बट अगर मारने की कोशिश उसके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से सोचे तो अगर ये मेरे को मार देगा तो मेरी सफरिंग कम हो जाएगी।
सर कोई आयुष्मान कार्ड होल्डर तो है लेकिन उसके पास कार्ड नहीं है, वो ट्रीटमेंट के लिए आता है, तो उसको ट्रीटमेंट देना विल बी मॉरल, बट बिना कार्ड के उसको ट्रीटमेंट देना विल नॉट बी एथिकल।
Ethical but not moral. Someone has shared yes, moral but not ethical you are giving, but we have to talk ethical but not moral. कई सारे बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल्स हैं. So shared good example, that is called uniform civil code, right? The uniform civil code is ethical because it is liberal principle it is based on, rational principle it is based on, but for let's say so it is ethical, but for some communities right, it may not be considered acceptable. Right. For some communities, it may not be considered moral. This that you can consider. Similarly, there can be this Sabrimala case. The Sabrimala case is it is promoting ethical but not moral. Similarly, you can talk another case that is called triple talaq. This case that you can consider. Similarly, live in wala you can say that LG BT this abolition of it this so there can be several examples.
Abolition of marriage currently comes to
Ethical. Some people may like that those works should be done by that class of people. Society. See, those who are from higher caste, they would not like to clean toilets. Simple, if I speak very blunt way, sorry to say. Right. This, अब इसका एग्जाम्पल भी है, चलो उसी से याद आया एग्जाम्पल, राइट? परमेश्वरन अय्यर, project director of Swachh Bharat mission, right? तो they had to clear, let's say कि जो pit होता है, toilet pit etc. let's say that, तो he was supervising because he is the project head, but he has gone for a ground visit, first hand experience, So there, let's say you have to clean some pits, etc. Let's say taking soil and other things out of that. The workers he had with him, means other government employees at local level, they refuse to do that. Right? Why? Because they think that this work is done by certain, let's say, class, you can say that, of people. What he did, he himself entered into this. Right? He himself took it, did it. So it is good. This is how you can say that. You can see this one. He is himself doing it. The other employees refuse to do that. Right. Because that work is not done by, right, as per our society. So to break this kind of traditional attitude, he did it himself. Right. So that way it can be considered. Because work is neutral thing. Right. Any work is work. It has nothing to do with any religion, caste, community, this, that. That is rational aspect. Right. But we have associated gradation with work. Right. So when we have associated gradation with work, so it is of our moral aspect. So we think that this particular job is of low standard and this particular job is of high standard. So that way we can consider. Although we will use his example again and again, Parmeshwar Iyer, one of the most successful IAS officers of our country. He was IAS, he quit IAS, again joined IAS through lateral entry. Anyhow, and success of Swachh Bharat Mission credit goes to him. Office administratively, if you take, politically it is to government. Anyhow, so this way you can understand it. So there can be situations, let's say, so basically what it is supporting, ethical but not moral, it can bring that situation where we may have heard about constitutional morality where given preference over social. So you can write all those examples. Right. All those examples where we give constitutional morality as preference over social morality. That way. And this is what we can consider about this. Right? So this is about ethical but not moral. Just इसको opposite कर दो आप. Right. So then there can be moral but not ethical. अब you give example where social morality has been given preference. Given preference over constitutional morality. One day we'll teach you this also. Because in ethics also it is important. So social morality is given preference over constitutional morality. अभी तो आया है example वक्फ bill. And Supreme Court stay on, I think, 3 such provisions. But जो भी है मतलब, some provisions they are giving preference to religion over constitutional morality. This then any other example? So that is how we had this case. We told Supriya Supriyo case. Supriya Supriyo case, I think 2023 का होगा. This LGBT denied. Right to marry. Any other example? Right. Any different example? Can you give any different example? टेम्पल एंट्री. तो टेम्पल एंट्री तो एथिकल हो जाएगा. Women are not allowed in Sabrimala wala case, let's say. The women are not allowed in menstrual cycle between 10 to 50 years of age. This, if society, if you go by this way, तो in Sabrimala हालांकि उस पे चल रहा है case, let's say that. To women not allowed. So women not allowed between 10 to few of age. This can be. Then basically let's you know that in midday meal in ICDS, you should know that vegetarian, let's say that menus have been introduced. This vegetarian, let's say this. The government has introduced vegetarian. That has remained controversial. This year one question in ethics paper is linked to that.
So banning meat shop during certain festivals. Banning meat shop during.
Yes, that is also, we can say this. The ICDS etc. is basically egg. This egg has been stopped. Right. Milk has been introduced. ये इशू है. दिस इज सीरियस इशू. इसी का क्वेश्चन आया साइंटिफिक टेम्पर लिंक करके, वेलफेयर स्कीम एंड साइंटिफिक टेम्पर दिस ईयर. बट वी हैव had asked question on midday meal related. The controversy happened. This. So this way, let's say then this. Yes, we were saying something. We were sharing. Right now, any example?
Sir, banning meat shop during.
Yes. This. This.
Sir, won't public interest be a reasonable justification
This one.
in certain states?
How come public interest has just started right now?
Not right now. In some states where the core philosophy is.
No, it is not like that. See, try to understand कि आप मीट शॉप को बोलो कि आप शेड लगा लो, ठीक है. अगर आपको साइट नहीं चाहिए मीट शॉप का, आप रेगुलेट कर सकते हैं completely. Let's say कि shutting down, तो it is, let's say that कि that is now it is a phenomenon. Traditionally it has been happening, right? So then it has no limit, you know that. Even in Delhi it has happened. Bengali market. The Bengali market, there is a temple and there is a fish market, right? And the Bengali market is by Bengali people. Those Bengali people live in and around. Temple उन्हीं का है. Fish market भी उन्हीं का है. Right. But some other people have problem with this. No, there cannot be fish market near temple. Right.
The Supreme Court ban on crackers can be ethical but not moral.
Yes, that can be, yes.
So it's street justice.
There should be regulation. when some people have objection, no doubt we can do that. But it will not be considered ethical. It will be considered always moral. Why? Without banning also you have other alternatives. Right. Blanket ban is not the alternative, right? You can have other alternatives also. Right? कि भाई आप शॉप होना चाहिए, आपको साइट नहीं चाहिए. You don't want to see. When you go to temple, you should not have the sight of that meat shop. तो you can shade हो सकता है वहाँ पर. ठीक है, आप शेड लगवा दो वहाँ पर, हाफ ओपन रखो. राइट. दिस. तो दूसरा है कि पूजा का एक टाइम होता है. पूजा का एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम होता है ना, पूरे दिन तो नहीं होता है पूजा, एक पर्टिकुलर टाइम होता है उसका. तो उस पर्टिकुलर टाइम पे आप बंद रख सकते हैं. दिस. और पहले ये सब नहीं था. ओपन में मीट शॉप नहीं होना चाहिए, ये आप रेगुलेशन ला सकते हैं जिस तरह से ओपन में होता है. दे हैव ओपन, लेट्स से कि ओपनली दे हैव मीट शॉप्स एंड दे डू ऑल द एक्टिविटीज. दैट यू कैन टेल इन जनरल आल्सो. उसके लिए किसी फेस्टिवल की जरूरत नहीं है. इन जनरल मीट शॉप्स शुड फॉलो द वे यू हैव अदर शॉप्स. इट शुड बी सेड, नॉट पब्लिक ग्लेयर में नहीं होना चाहिए. In general, you can bring this regulation. It is good. They should maintain hygiene. It is good. Right. This. So that is also a solution. Right. You can have a common law. अगर आप common law लेकर के आओगे कि कोई भी religious place के in around this circle there should not be a meat shop. Right. This common law. So that we may consider ethical because it is now universal. But if you go case by case situation, so that may not. Anyhow, let's avoid such things. Right. This, you will be able to write moral but not ethical. This. Now, there can be situation or example. People have written example also. Let's say honor killing, capital punishment. Right. This criminal honor killing can also be right. Right. Yes. They consider moral. Right. That's why there is honor killing. Right. Recently it happened in Gurugram. This. Yes, yes. Gurugram, the girl likes to be open, free, but parents etc. basically they want that no, you should have the way we have a conservative type of society, you should be like that. Many a time ऐसा होता है, कुछ लोग ज़्यादा open हो जाते हैं, right? तो society do not like them, so that way we can consider. But it is their values and preferences. Anyhow, then we can have moral and ethical. Both possibility. We can have moral and ethical. What can be moral and ethical? Yes, our, let's say, tolerant society. Tolerant society, plurality, inclusiveness, this, that way. Yes. Intercaste. Yes, intercaste is ethical. Yes. No, no. Intercaste is ethical For some people it may not be moral. This. But those who are, let's say that, people, let's say, those who believe in intercaste, let's say that yes, we can write it. Basically, it depends on people, let's say. There can be some individuals who may not believe in caste system. It can be their moral standard. And since you don't believe in any such kind of status-based relation, it is a universal standard also.
Then it should be in reverse category. Then it should be ethical but not moral.
No. It is for those individuals. देखो, try to understand. अब moral और ethical कब हो सकता है? This. See, when individuals' moral standards, whatever, let's say, individual's moral standard, ABCD, whatever the individual there, their moral standards are similar to ethical standards. So when moral standards are equal to ethical standards, it can be moral and ethical. Like you believe in equality, so your moral standard is equality, so you promote equality. That way we can consider. So in that way it can be considered moral and ethical. Right. So it is not that you have to balance it. When moral standards conform to ethical standards, so we can be considered moral as well as each society has its own moral standard. आप ऐसे समझो आप. Let's say each society. We'll teach when we'll take religion. Each society बहुत सारे moral standards होते हैं. At least one moral standard of that society will be universal. Can we say? This. Each religion के अपने अपने कुछ important values होते हैं. This, let's say that कि Hinduism. So already we had, let's say, tolerance. This Islam, equality, Christian, forgiveness, this Jainism, this is called non-violence. तो जो भी जैन लोग होंगे तो दे विल बिलीव इन नॉन वायलेंस, तो ये उनका तो मोरल स्टैंडर्ड है. बट नॉन वायलेंस इज ऑल्सो एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड. बट सारे उनके वैल्यूज एथिकल स्टैंडर्ड नहीं है. राइट. सारे, लेट्स से दैट कि दे स्टार्व टू डेथ. दिस इन जैनिज्म देयर इज टुवर्ड्स एंड ऑफ लाइफ क्या बोलते हैं? सले नहीं संथारा. राइट. यूनिटी ड्यूरिंग ऑपरेशन सिंदूर. यस. सेलकारा. This. Right. Yes. This you can say. Right. So let me tell it. Basically, let me tell that we have our moral standard, but it is not, let's say, necessary that our moral standard will always be different from ethical standard. Some moral standards can be of ethical standard also. Can we say that? This, in that case, we can be moral as well as ethical. This way you understand this. So each religion has lots of, let's say that relative aspect, but each religion is also known for its core value. Right. So one core value you relate. Right. So Jainism can have non-violence. Non-violence is also universal value. Yes. So that way there is a possibility of being moral also and ethical also. This. That way we can consider. So what we find is this. That is how we tell moral and ethical. Can we say this? Some moral values will be separate, some ethical standard will be separate, but some will be common. That relationship, this we can consider. Now, then question comes, understanding taking to the higher level. Can anything be a moral value? Can anything, anyone, whether we are free to have any moral standard? Are we free to have any moral standards? Yes. So even if morality depends on individuals, but anything cannot be your moral standard. Get it? We are social being, it belongs to society. Right? We are social being and we belong to society. So since we live in society, we are a part of, let's say that society. So we are not free to have anything as moral. नहीं तो लोग तो क्या क्या moral value रख सकते हैं, isn't it? Right? तो someone may like killing others. ठीक है, तो he can say it is my moral value. Right? This. So moral should have an element of rightness and wrongness. Means it should have still certain standards, certain justification. This. So there are, even if individual beliefs and values, but still they are subject to certain standards, certain base point, you can say that. Right? This. There should be certain justification. And then there are also restrictions by society. Cannibalism, you know that. There is can we say this when people have cannibalism type of thing? That way can be considered. Can it be considered? This moral, this कभी Indian Navy में आया था न्यूज wife swapping. Right. This right. There can be a culture like this. Right. So anything cannot be considered as moral. This, like say कि you have some social relations, and some social relations are given special, let's say that की treatment. This, like say कि brother and sister relation, let's say कि mother and father relation. This you should know that. Blood relations. So society has imposed certain restrictions. So one is not free to have any such moral value, you can consider like this. That is how we can say that anything cannot be moral. This, let's write on this. Okay. The three relations we have written, then we will write on this. Even if morality depends on, individual values and standards, still one is not free to have anything as moral standard. Anything as moral standard. It is due to following factors. First, human is a social animal. And belongs to a society. Human is a social animal and belongs to a society. society. Hence, part of society. Part of society. Next, society imposes some social restrictions. Society imposes some social restrictions. Social restrictions. Next, there should be balance between individual good and public good. Individual good and public good. Next, philosophers like let's write Mahatma Gandhi. Morality is the basis of all things. These are some remarks. Morality is the basis of things. Morality is the basis of things. And truth is the substance of all morality. Truth is the substance of all morality. Next. It is Martin Luther King. Junior. Morality cannot be legislated. But behavior can be regulated. Morality cannot be legislated, but behavior can be regulated. While the law may not change the heart, it can restrain the heartless. While the law may not change the heart, it can restrain the heartless. Next, Immanuel Kant. Morality is not properly the doctrine of how we may make ourselves happy. But how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. Right? This morality is not properly the doctrine of how we make ourselves happy, this, but how we may make ourselves worthy of happiness. So what they are trying to say? They are trying to say that ki even let's say ki morality, let's say that morality is, let's say ki it should have still certain standards. This is how they are trying to say. Even if moral you are, but you have to follow some standards. So there are restrictions, let's say, that anyone cannot have any such moral aspect. Therefore, let's say towards end, let's say there, it means morality is supposed to have a certain level of rightness and wrongness, or justification. This, so that way we can consider. Then next is that we have told that how morality is. Last point is can there be ethicality without morality? Let's say. Yes. Can there be ethicality without morality?
Does our conscience decided we are moral or our conscience decided?
Yes. Yes, we are conscience driven. Yes. It decides. Yes.
Sir, eating beef or not eating beef is our conscience. Is moral or not?
Right. So let's take that ki moral. Right. You are trying to judge anyone's eating behavior. Right. Yes, yes, it is eating behavior. Right. This, it is eating behavior. Right. Now, why you are taking beef? आप कुछ भी ले सकते हैं. Meat, no, 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 no. आप कुछ भी ले लो. Eating fish, meat. Right. This, okay, right. From that perspective. Now, although it is sensitive, but try to understand. Beef is not, let's say, कि banned lawfully throughout country. First, आपको ये पता होगा. Beef is restricted in few states, not even in all states. We should know this also. Like in Goa, it is not restricted. In northeast states, it is not restricted. Right? Then why we pick up Kerala only? That aspect. This way, if you go politically, so these are also BJP ruled states. Right? This. Anyhow, let's come to our point. देखो कोई भी ईटिंग बिहेवियर जो है वो उसके अपने कल्चर सोसाइटल नॉर्म से आया है. राइट. उसके अपने हिस्टोरिकल फैक्टर्स है. राइट. आप उसको आउटराइट एक दिन में यहाँ से देख करके जज नहीं कर सकते हैं.
Sir, our conscience change our culture.
Yes, it changed. Our conscience, our culture, they keep changing. This, that we can consider. But as far as, let's say that कि when we say कि moral aspect, yes, in our society, Hinduism, and again कि Hinduism में तो ये debatable है. Hinduism में तो even विवेकानंदा and Savarkar, let's say, they supported it, right? This. और हिंदुइज्म में तो कहीं इसका कोई ऐसा एविडेंस नहीं है, राइट? बट हिंदुइज्म एक अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा रिलीजन है, बहुत ही डाइवर्स रिलीजन है, तो उसमें ये भी कहना कि ऐसा नहीं है ये मुश्किल है, राइट? दिस, बट लेट्स कम टू दैट कि यस, पीपल हैव दिस religious value that ki, they worship cow. So when they worship cow, so they expect that ki other people should not eat beef. That is what we are saying. Now the people in Kerala, when in bank, let's say, because bank manager, let's say, banned in bank canteen, so let's say, ki beef eating. So then people of Kerala, let's say that ki those who are bank employees, they protested. And then they kept one, let's say, party outside the bank, right, in which they had beef eating to show their resistance, right, that way. Now, it is sensitive, controversial, right, that way, and you can see from different perspective, right. It can be also politically as also, let's say this, that way. But as far as eating behavior is concerned, it is guided by what our religious values are. At the same time, not religious values, what are our individual values. You should know that in Kerala there are people who also do not believe in religion. That also you should know. The Kerala will have among all state, although empirically I cannot tell, but there will be, let's say, people who may not believe in, they are atheists. Those who are atheists, now they have to see what should be their relation with animal rather than religion, right? So what should be our relation with animal? Should we kill animals? Should we not kill animals? Should we bring animals as part of our, let's say, food? It has a very, let's say, that long debate and even controversy, right? But what you wanted to know? What you want to know by this?
Is legal, ethical or not eating beef? Your moral conscience does not allow for eating any animal.
Right. Try to understand. देखो, फूडिंग बिहेवियर का जो रिलेशन है, दिस कैंशियंस विल नॉट अलाउ. जितने सारे लोगों ने ये फिलॉसफी दिया है, ठीक है, सो मोस्टली विल बी नॉन वेजिटेरियन, राइट? नो, जिसने कैंशियंस का फिलॉसफी दिया है, इमैनुअल कैंट, राइट? So since those people are, let's say, so how we can say about conscience aspect, right? This. So vegetarian has lots of emphasis in Indian philosophy. This you should know that. But as far as the food is concerned, in the Western philosophy, it is not part of that debate. That way we can consider. Plus, I will tell that how to answer that question, that you have to see how origin of non-vegetarian, how it comes, right, how it spreads in history, different parts of the, let's say, society. Then it becomes part of culture, let's say that. This you can consider. So, ideally, let's say Tirukul. In Tirukul it says that we should not, let's say, killing animal is those who can kill animal. There is one quotation like this, right? This you should know that. But basically the philosophy is saying that those who can kill animal, they cannot be considered as something good, that way. But let's say that this has nothing to do with your analysis of rational conduct. Because our relation of human conduct is more about human to human relationship. Right? We analyze human conduct in that context. And there will not be one view. One view on this, whether it is ethical or not.
Actually, it says eating meat is a part of Bihar, they exchange fish, have marriages, and the concept of bali is also there. So it may be moral at some point.
Yes, that is how we can tell that कि talking, let's say कि देखो होता क्या है, how you will understand this. If you go to the Western society, the kind of their geographical, topographical aspect they have. If you go to the Arabian countries, so they are all highly desert oriented, let's say that. Right. तो when nowadays आप vegetable उनको supply कर सकते हैं. This आप वेजिटेबल सप्लाई कर सकते हैं. आजकल मॉडर्न मीन्स ऑफ थिंग्स हैव डेवलप्ड, बट इफ यू लुक इनटू द हिस्ट्री, लेट्स से दैट दिस, तो हिस्टोरिकली लेट्स से कि समवन इज लिविंग इन जस्ट हिली एरिया एंड इट इज लेट्स से कि -degree टेम्परेचर, तो हाउ यू विल सप्लाई वेजिटेबल टू देम? Although I am not a history teacher, I cannot be very, let's say, correct in this. But this is what I can gather some senses and tell you. This. So historical things if you take, today yes, our fooding behavior should change. We are changing. Let's say there is greater emphasis on vegetarian. But then even in vegetarian also, whether a plant is a live thing, and when you grow plant, lots of insects, etc. Again there is, let's say that ki, to what extent you will go and talk on these things. Right? When you grow plants and other things, vegetable, so you are also killing lots of insects, organisms. Right? This. So I think I have also not studied a lot in this area to argue and tell. Right? So I may not be conclusive on that aspect, but it is more considered as moral, right? As far as saying ethical, then the logic that we are trying to give, we can ourselves by force can say that it is not ethical, but it may not have empirical basis or rational basis the way they have given philosophy. This, that way we can consider. Anyhow, let's take next. So what we are saying is,
Can there be ethicality without morality?
right, yes, can there be ethicality without morality? Right. So try to understand. Moral depends on individual to individual. But ultimately, let's say that ki our moral behavior is shaped by society that we live. This. That society. Any society that we live, so we can have our, let's say, 1.4 billion people, let's say, living in India is a society. So their moral values will be shaped by this. Whatever the society we have. Then individual is not completely independent of that. This. Now, ethical largely in which context we talk? Ethical values largely we talk in professional context, right? In public context. Moral values remain more as private affairs, but ethical values come more under professional context or public context. This. Then ethicality comes. So it is more of public affairs, public affairs or professional. This. Like even let's take this. So AB, they are living together, right? And they will say it is their private matter. Society has no any business. This. Or let's say ki AB, they are of young age, 13 years, 14 years age, they are in relationship. This, that we can consider. So they can have whatever. But suppose, let's say that they are living together, right? society has no any business. But suppose that ki they do something and one is harming right of other. So when one is harming right of other, then their privacy ends and ethics comes. This. Then ethics will decide who is right, who is wrong. That way. That is how they can go to court, they can claim, they can do this, they can do that aspect. This. So, moral aspect, let's say that you have. Now, I was talking about moral aspect we have to talk. This is an example where your rights may end and moral, ethical rights may begin. On day-to-day life, when you are living, so you are free to have your moral values. But the day you harm others' rights, so your own moral values, boundary ends. This and other rights boundary, let's say that begins. And when it begins, it will be subject to ethical scrutiny. It will be subject to ethical scrutiny, you can say this. Right? Now, ethical principles are also brought from moral standards. This you should also know that. After all, ethical standards have come from where? Right. Let's say gradually, let's say suppose that one day Indian government brings a universal law and it says that animal, let's say especially let's say there will be anti-cow slaughter law, suppose it brings at India level. It appeals to other countries also. Take a hypothetical scenario. It appeals to other countries also. The cow should not be slaughtered. What if other countries also suppose agree? Right. So one day it can become a universal standard. Getting? So what is moral today can become tomorrow ethical. That is also possible. What is moral today, it can become tomorrow ethical aspect. So the more the exposure you get, the more your values go to global level, you can say this. Right. This we can say spread of these things. So moral and ethical, they have their own relationship. Right. When you have to follow ethical standards, so largely you have to follow in public affair context. Ethical standards are universal standards, higher standards. Moral standards are not of that higher standards. Can you follow ethical standards if you have not followed moral standards? Yes. When we are not following on day-to-day basis some of our moral standards, tomorrow can you follow ethical standards? Yes, but there is a weak link. There is a weak link you can consider. Right. Let's say that basically let's say how much let's say you are honest. So whether you are honest to your parents. Right. Are you honest to your parents? Right. It depends, your honesty at this stage depends on your own moral standards. And it is in the context of parents. Tomorrow, honesty in the context of सिविल सर्वेंट. और यहाँ तो पेरेंट्स का तो बहुत ज़्यादा लेट्स से कि अथॉरिटी है, बट इससे ज़्यादा अथॉरिटी राइट. तो व्हेन यू आर नॉट ऑनेस्ट टू पेरेंट्स, विल यू बी ऑनेस्ट टू? ऐसे आप सीखो. When generally we teach that when children have not been taught how to take responsibility in their day-to-day life, when they grow up, then they have to take responsibility in public context. So will they take responsibility? That way you should know. When auto rickshaws, day-to-day basis, they do not adhere to the norm, they say, ki the distance they go and the charge they take rationally. Once you introduce metering system, will they adhere to metering system? Maybe, may not be. That way you can consider. So this way you have to understand the relationship. The prevailing overall adherence to moral standard in the society is nothing but how individuals adhere to moral standard. And the same individuals are asked to adhere some higher standards of values in a much more challenging situation. Right? So it is said a society which lacks morality will lack ethicality also. If you want to make organizations ethical, you have to make society also moral. This we have to understand. Because morality is a discipline. Means it brings a discipline in you. It creates, even if at base level, but it creates discipline. And when you go in a public context, that demands even higher discipline. When you have grown up, you are growing to 18 years of age, 25 years of age, and you have not been even adhering to certain base level of values, then tomorrow you have to adhere to certain universal standards. So will you adhere to those universal standards? Right. This we have to understand. How many examples can be given? Ours is a society where adulteration and all these things are very normal. Right? Adulteration and other practices are very normal. Right? So suppose, let's say that you are someone is, let's say, any shop wala is selling organic vegetable. Do you have trust that he is giving you organic wala? He charging you organic, but is he supplying organic? Right. It depends on his morality. Right. It depends on his morality. And the way you have society, there you cannot have trust because you know that they may be selling inorganic in the name of even if someone starts a business of organic vegetable, but the person will not become successful. Right? Why? That person needs people who should adhere to organic. Right? And even the persons who are buying vegetables, sellers, you are a whole supplier wala, the sellers also, the sellers should have their moral standard so that they sell organic to people rather than कि suppose organic नहीं है तो उन्होंने दूसरा vegetable organic के नाम पे दे दिया. Right? Instead of saying कि नहीं organic आज नहीं है. Right? So when you do it, right, so why you are doing it? Because in day-to-day basis, even we may not be adhering to base level of moral standard. Are you able to understand? Right. So how to tell? कैसे बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं to tell you all these things. जैसे ये सारा ब्रिज कोलैप्स होता है, ब्रिजेज कोलैप्स, राइट. तो एक डेट से लेकर के 2017 तक 2000 ब्रिजेज कोलैप्स हो चुके हैं. एक डेटा है ऐसा. अभी नो दैट कि ऑल अक्रॉस कंट्री ब्रिजेज, स्पेशली इन बिहार, इज इन फेमस फॉर दैट. राइट. तो व्हाई ब्रिजेज आर कोलैप्सिंग? बिकॉज पुअर क्वालिटी ऑफ मटेरियल. poor quality of material and others? No. Who is applying this? Builder, those who are builders, not a right name, but let's say that contractors etc. you can say that. But आप ultimately contractors कौन है ये? They are individuals. So do they adhere in day-to-day life certain moral aspect? Right. If here they are not adhering to certain moral aspect, यहाँ तो और भी ज़्यादा standard होना चाहिए ना? Right. Because stake is high. Right. And gain is high. Right. That is the link, you can say that. Ultimately, we are being, let's say that we are working in different capacity in different organizations. In different capacity we are working, but we are individuals. As individuals, are we having certain standards of values? This, if we lack certain standards of values, here also it will not change much. This, and professional deliveries all across society will be poor. This. So that is what you can say. So, an electrician in your house who comes and then he promises that he is using the Havels and all these things, isn't it? And he can, let's say, charge you etc. You know it better. Our TADA, civil servants, they go to different places, and if the cost is 5,000, but they will give 10,000 bill. This, why it is? Right. So in nutshell, what we have to tell you, right? Strength of ethicality depends on strength of level of morality in a society. This. And that's why society should improve its overall morality. इसीलिए moral education दिया जाता है. Children को moral education we give, so that they can improve their moral standard. Right. That is how the relationship. Then the last line will tell is, ethics is empty without morality. That is how it is. So, even if they are different, still morality is important, because morality is foundation for ethics. That's why societies are different. The level of adherence to ethics in a particular society will depend on level of morality in that society. That way. That's why even if you bring reforms, अब बहुत सारे, अब क्या रिफॉर्म करोगे? सारे रिफॉर्म्स तो हम लेके आ गए. अब यूपीएससी आपसे पूछता है, व्हाट मोर रिफॉर्म्स कैन बी डन, सजेस्ट इनोवेटिव स्टेप्स. राइट. अब क्या वो इनोवेटिव होगा? लोकपाल भी हो गया, आरटीआई भी आ गया, ई गवर्नेंस भी आ गया, फिर भी करप्शन नहीं रुक रहा है. राइट. तो merely creating institutions may not result into fairness, let's say, and corruption-free society. It is related to overall moral aspect. I guess it is clear, right? The relationship between them. That is how the relation between morality and ethicality, right? This just summarize, write it on this.
Sir, your economic interest can prevail your morality.
Yes, 30% rate चल रहा है. %, 40%, पता है आपको? तो कर्नाटका इलेक्शन में कांग्रेस क्रिटिसाइज बीजेपी that there is corruption or there was corruption in your time. The Congress BJP responded by saying that yes, but during your time there was 40%. In our time 30%. We have reduced it by 10%. Right. This. Right. जो भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है, अब आपके पास चॉइस है. कॉन्ट्रैक्ट There are players A, B, C, D, and you have to pay 30%. If you will not pay, you will not get this contract. So you are out. Right? Now you are out, तो आपको तो बिजनेस ही नहीं मिलेगा. तो बिजनेस नहीं मिलेगा तो बिजनेस बंद कर दो. So you have a choice. So whether you want to run your business purely on the basis of honesty, right? So this is how, let's say, it depends on individual to individual. Let's just summarize it. Let's, even if they have differences, even if they have three different types of relations, even if they have three different types of relations, still both are inseparable. Both are inseparable. They should not be seen more in conflictual term. They should not be seen more in conflictual term, rather in complementary term. Change paragraph. Ethics has been derived from morality. Ethics has been derived from morality. That is, there is evolution of normative theory of ethics. Ethics is also defined as values which are imposed by society. Values which are imposed by society. In bracket you can write, although it can have also negative connotation. Right. Change paragraph. But moral principles have been set by moral philosophers on the basis of moral values of society. Society. Moral values of society. Change paragraph. Since society is undergoing changes. Moral values also undergo change. What is moral today can be ethical tomorrow. What is moral today can be ethical tomorrow. Or what is moral today may not be ethical tomorrow. It means they remain dynamic. dynamic. That's why it is difficult to separate them. In nutshell, this means why to debate a lot. In nutshell, it can be said that a society which lacks moral standards will also lack ethical standards. A society which lacks moral standards will also lack ethical standards. For instance, be it adulteration in society, poor project developments, including collapse of bridges, in Bihar. They are not merely ethical problems. Rather, they are more moral problems of society. That since people in day-to-day life may not adhere to even baseline of morality, they cannot be expected day-to-day life. They do not adhere to, or they may not do not adhere to even baseline of morality. Thereafter they may not be expected to adhere ethical standards in professional capacity. That's why there is a popular saying. Ethics is empty without morality. Ethics is empty without morality. Ethics is empty without morality. So, this C.S. Lewis remarked, morality tells you the tune. T-U-N-E, tune. Ethics tells you how to play it. Ethics tells you how to play it. Clear? So that is how. A bit more you may have understood about ethics. that ethics we told that it is based on universal aspect, right? Then moral, yes, we are free to have our moral values. But again, let's say we can be moral but not ethical, ethical but not moral, and we can be both. At the same time, morality is a kind of base, foundation. This is how we can draw like this. So this is morality of the society. This, you can see if it is morality, that is ethics. It will be on that. So ethics you cannot promote unless we promote morality. So they are not necessarily conflictual, confrontational. Rather, they can influence each other. But friction happens because of societal differences, stereotype, prejudices, being very, let's say that कि orthodox type, conservative, repulsive, बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स हैं जिसके वजह से हमारे सोसाइटी में फ्रिक्शन होता है. दिस देयर इज ऑलवेज फ्रिक्शन बिटवीन morality and ethics. You can say constitutional morality and social morality. There is friction. This and friction brings change. This that way. It is the friction that has brought. Once Supreme Court or a High Court went on decriminalizing Section 377, then Supreme Court ने उसको reject किया, फिर Supreme Court ने ही उसको accept किया, right? So you have a long history of several social relations evolving. This that way we can say it is because of friction. Friction नहीं होता है तो transgender को third gender नहीं बोलते. This they may not have got rights. So that way we can see the society, and that is how the moral relation lets. Then tomorrow we'll take about values, law, religion, etc. This was a bit the difficult part, you can say. Others are not that difficult. Yes. So we'll finish here. Okay.